If it's not in writing, it didn't happen goes both ways. My new manager at work is one of those people that absolutely has to be in control. Even when you're exceeding every scorecard measure, keeping your head down, not putting a toe out of line, she still asks you to come to a meeting room to discuss some minor issue or another. Recently, she pulled me into a meeting to discuss me being late from work. Protocol is to call in, say we'll be late, then submit a schedule adjustment request when we arrived. She accused me of not calling in or submitting a request but was able to prove I did. Only instead of leaving it at that, she insisted I now needed to call her and explain why I was late. That's not the process, I told her, and she said she was making a new one. So now I call her at 6 AM on her day off to let her know if I'm gonna be late. She also had a meeting with me because my scorecard for a stat was 99/100ths, with a target of 50. She had to point out the 1/100th I missed. She also did the same for a handling time issue where I am hitting an average of 600 seconds with a target of 1500. She needed to tell me about a call I took too long on. Suffice to say, complaints have been raised to her manager following an incident where she was asked to follow up on something for me, and claimed if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. I've been asking for everything in writing and repeat that mantra back to her when she claims to have told me something. Last week, she asked me to see her after my call. I walked over and she wasn't there, so went back to my desk. She asked me why I didn't stay around, and I reminded her of the time she put, in writing, that I wasn't to spend more than 1 minute waiting for her if she asked to see me, and was to go back to my desk to take calls, not wasting time. She asked me to come over again, and when I did, she wasn't there. This repeated twice more before my shift was over. Each time I documented logged out at 14:14 p.m., came to your desk, you were not there, spent 45 seconds waiting, returned to desk and took another call at 14:16 p.m. in chat. She messages me to ask what time I finish. I tell her it was 2 minutes prior, and she says we can catch up now. I tell her that my shift is over, and ask if she'll approve an overtime pay for an out-of-hours meeting. She tells me not to be silly, and it'll just take 10 minutes. I refuse, and say if I don't get paid, we can do it tomorrow when I am being paid. She's typing, then not, then typing, then not, choosing her words. I know she's angry at being challenged, and she decided to employ one of the tactics she used when she managed a team for a company where this was standard practice. Okay, well, if you'd like to go home now, I can always make it a formal meeting. A formal meeting where I work is code for a meeting with HR, documented on your record, for misconduct and repeated issues. She thinks she's won. Not a problem. Make a formal meeting, ensure I have 24 hours notice, send a formal invite, and I will bring a support person with me. I log out and leave, but not before grabbing screenshots and saving a copy of the chat logs. Next day, she's called my bluff and has a meeting scheduled. I send it to my union rep, and she comes in on the day. HR sits down with us and opens with, "So we're here today to discuss some concerns. Your team leader asked you to attend an off-the-cuff catch-up 3 times, and for some reason you refused." I quickly clarify what actually happened. My manager claims otherwise, and I repeat her mantra. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Then I supply receipts. Her demands to put things in writing, her chat, my timestamps, my call logs, and her message to me afterwards. My union rep stares at the two of them, with a small smile, and asks, "So do you maintain the position that employees should attend meetings unpaid? And that misconduct investigations are a good use of resources if they refuse?" HR said there may have been a miscommunication, and that I could return to work. I have it put in writing that I am not accused of any misconduct, and have been cleared of any false accusations, with nothing documented on my staff file. Yesterday, my team was advised that our team leader had decided to pursue opportunities outside of the company and we were getting a new manager. Edit, small comment to those that say it's a shitty place to work. Full disclosure, it's actually not. Job is satisfying on a personal and ethical level. I deal with vulnerable people and help them. Pay and perks are great, and the people are great to work with. The metrics are more than reasonable, and all my managers over the last several years have been wonderful except a couple, who were wrong for the role and were swiftly removed or made to improve. Now to the comments. I loved every minute of reading this. I will be logging those minutes. Well done. Not gonna lie, I hated every word until the tables turned. People like that make me so freaking angry. For every person like OP there are 10 who don't get the justice they deserve in a situation like that. I hope HR didn't forget to put everything in OP's manager's file in writing before terminating her. The keywords in OP's story are union rep and having backup documentation. I remember my first real, full-time job. My trainer told me very early on, "See ya. Cover your ass." That stuck with me through the next 40 years and several jobs. Yesterday, my team was advised that our team leader had decided to pursue opportunities outside of the company and we were getting a new manager. Translated from corporate, this means team leader made us look bad and we are not happy. It's more like team leader has become a liability. Risk has been mitigated. Exactly. This is about the only instance where HR is your friend. If the person you're up against is doing something egregious enough to be a risk of a lawsuit towards the company. Many years ago I worked for a company in a salaried position to take into account the new working time directive in the UK. I was on an average 36-hour week, working 3 days in the week and 1 at the weekend. They estimated my shifts to be 9 hours. But in reality, they were 12-hour shifts with 2 to 3 hours worth of traveling time per shift. So, I built up quite a bit of excessive hours. When I came to take time off, my manager said that I had to arrange my own cover and I could only take my leave on my allocated days off and had to work my allocated days. I said that she was incorrect and she suggested I take up the matter with HR. So, she was surprised when I did so and brought in my union rep. It was at this point HR discovered that I had built up enough excessive hours that I could have 2 weeks off before even touching my allocated leave. 20 minutes into the scheduled meeting, I was asked to leave so that my manager and the HR manager could discuss this matter. How can you take leave on your allocated day off anyway? It's not leave if I'm not supposed to be working anyway. What was that manager thinking? I had a job that pulled shenanigans like this too. You'd put in for vacation time to get a weekend off, and he'd approve it with the caveat that you trade shifts with someone to cover those hours and get your work done. Basically, just buying out your vacation days with extra steps. I used to work credit and activations for a mobile company with a T in the name. I got in trouble for my average call time being roughly 2.5 minutes when they were supposed to be between 5 to 7 minutes. Many of the people calling in were store owners activating phone for customers, but apparently, I was supposed to chat them up to show good customer service. Maybe it's just me, but when I call a customer center, I just want done what I want done, as quick as possible to do without mistakes. Must be very T-on. Or estrint. Oh, this triggered my call center memories. I was a fast call taker and my supervisors liked to be on my case about not getting an above average first call resolution, FCR, stat. However, my call handle time was half of what was expected and easily the best in a 150 plus person call center. Every supervisor I had, they liked to rotate employees to different supervisors every 3 to 6 months, would get on me about my FCR. I'd point out that from my own follow-up the ones I was assigning out were, in fact, not resolvable with our level of access. Eventually they got a system where all issues were marked in the internal system as something we should or should not be able to resolve, password resets we should always resolve, but BSOD issues were an immediate sign out. Shockingly, while my FCR stat stayed right around the call center average, I was hitting perfect or near perfect scores on what calls should or shouldn't be assigned out. My supervisor was completely confused how this could be until I pointed out that if I was taking 1.5 to twice as many calls as the average agent, I was going to trend towards the actual average of FCR instead of being an outlier who resolved a large percentage of their calls but didn't take nearly as many calls. They left me alone after that. I was the opposite in my brief call center stint. My average call time was typically over 8 minutes when they wanted us to be under 7, but I was thorough as shit and had not only a high first call resolution, but also high customer satisfaction. Soon enough, the lead techs realized that if I couldn't fix something, either it couldn't be fixed, or it was going to take 30 minutes or more. They quit asking me what was going on when I passed 10 minutes on a call and just asked, "You good?" A good call center needs both types of workers. That they do. I'd sometimes get a supervisor on me if I was taking more than 7 minutes. We had that same target on a call telling me to hurry it up. At first this was an issue when I was new, but when I'd established myself a bit, I'd point out that my SICHD was the best in the call center, and if I was taking long on a particular call it meant I knew I could fix it with a little more time. Granted, I only did that for the nice callers. The jerks got minimum service. If it was something that officially wasn't supposed to be an FCR, the jerks got a ticket to the next level technician and I got them off the phone as fast as possible.